my fellow gods and goddesses, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I am recommending you 5 standalone fantasies. First of all, I know I look a little crazy today. If this look looks familiar, it's because I did a Judge a Book by its cover on Aphrodite Made Me Do It by Tristan Mattier, and this is the finished look. If you haven't seen that video, please go check it out because that book is really important to me and, you know, content. Go watch my face and watch me create this crazy blue pink look. But yeah, that's not this video. This video is my 5 favorite standalone fantasies that I've read. If you guys are an avid watcher of my channel, I can almost guarantee that none of these books are going to be a surprise. You guys have probably heard them from my lips many a time. And I have discovered that standalone fantasies have just become my favorite thing. I absolutely love the way that authors are able to create this world and this world building and characters and plot and put them in just a, not really, it doesn't have to be a short book, but just one book rather than kind of dragging out a story in 5+ books. I would say almost all series I've read, even no matter how much I did enjoy said series, it just drags out. There's always at least 1 or 2 books that are just okay. They just don't really mesh well. There's only like one really standout book in a series, and for me it's not worth it. And I find that with standalone fantasies, that is never the case. It is always just one story that's told beautifully, if done right, of course. You still get the same character development, you still get the same really interesting plot, the really interesting world building, and it's over in one book and you're able to close that story and move on to a next. But today I will be telling you guys my top 5 standalone fantasies that I've read. I am always trying to look out for standalone fantasies. I have read a few other ones that didn't quite make this list because they don't do the qualifications that these books do. If you guys have any recommendations for standalone fantasies, please send them my way. I am always looking for more. I love them so much. So let's stop blabbering on and let's just get into this. So the first book I'm going to be talking about is one that I unfortunately do not have in my possession quite yet, but it is on my wish list, and that is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I just read this recently and it was such a magical and fantastical read. An Enchantment of Ravens takes place in this village where it is kind of like a marketplace for the Fae. In this world, fairies are unable to do any crafts, so they can't paint or cook or they can't create anything because it is a detriment to their health and it can kill them. So they are active employers of humans who do all of those stuff, like make them pretty dresses and make them food and things like that. Our main character, Isabel, is a painter in this world, and she is the absolute best at what she does. She paints portraits for the Fae, and she is absolutely so amazing that she has garnered the attention of Fae royalty, Fae of very high class, and one day the Autumn Prince ends up going and visiting her painting studio. She paints him, but she notices that he kind of has this human emotion in his face, and she is such good of a painter that she paints that human emotion in his portrait, and this does not go well for her. Autumn Prince is absolutely horrified. He is outraged by the fact that she has done this because he presented the painting to the entire fairy courts, and now they kind of, you know, low-key made fun of him because he is now perceived as weak for having human emotions. So he storms back into Isabel's studio and takes her away to be put on trial, to be imprisoned, probably to be murdered. because that's how the Fae like to do it. And we follow them on their journey to the Autumn Court, and there's a whole bunch of drama. on the way there. You hear so much about this fairy lore in such a small little book. There's so much atmosphere in this. I definitely recommend this as a autumn read because it is the Autumn Prince and we get a lot of autumn imagery, and it is such a really cute and entertaining read. Insta-love is quite a big theme of this book, so if that is not a trope you like, you probably won't like this book. Isabel falls in love with the Autumn Prince pretty much as soon as she sees him, so there is that aspect. It's a big theme of the book. You don't like that, stay away from it. But I personally don't mind Insta-love. I actually quite like it when it's done very well. The Autumn Prince and Isabel have such good chemistry. They are so cute. It's just so wholesome. This really is one of the most wholesome books I have ever read. It's so cute. The world is so fascinating, so stunning. The aesthetics are on point, and it's just a really cute, fun read. The next book I have to talk about is The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. This is another Fae standalone fantasy. It is actually quite similar to An Enchantment of Ravens, so if you like either one of these, I think you would like the other. So, Darkest Part of the Forest, unlike An Enchantment of Ravens, is taking place in modern day, again in this really small town where everybody kind of knows that fairies exist. They have accepted the fact that the Fae exist, that they don't necessarily coincide with the Fae, but they know they're out there, they take precautions, they know the rules, they have just all grown up knowing that they exist. And part of the reason why they know these Fae exist is that in this forest there is this fairy prince, well, they think it's a fairy prince, and he has been asleep in this glass coffin for centuries. Nobody is kind of alive during this time where he wasn't in this coffin. It's always been there, he's always just been sitting there chilling. He's actually quite a spot for the local kids to party at. They like to dance on his coffin, stuff like that, get a little crazy, have little bonfires next to a seemingly almost dead fairy prince. Makes you really think about how lame your own high school parties were, huh? But one day, the prince wakes up. And the fairy prince wakes up, he breaks out of his coffin somehow, and shit goes down. This story is, I would say, 100% character driven. There's definitely a plot to it, don't get me wrong. And it is a totally perfectly fine plot. I enjoyed learning about it. I enjoyed trying to figure out who this prince was, what everything happening, what are the consequences of it, what's going on, all of that stuff. But I found that this book really just excels in the characters. Jack, who is the love interest of this book, is one of my favorite characters ever. He is so cute, so snarky. I love him so much. And the relationship between Hazel, our main character, and Ben, her twin brother, is such a complicated relationship to unpack, and they just grow together, and it's so cute. Ben, our main character's twin brother, he actually has a fairy curse placed on him, and we kind of navigate through that, and it's just so good. It's so good. There's a lot of rep in here. Ben is gay, and there is a male-male relationship in here that is just so fucking cute. Darkest Part of the Forest kind of goes inside the modern fairy tales world that Holly Black has kind of brought up, and there are Darkest Part of the Forest cameos in The Cruel Prince, which I basically screamed when I read about. I loved it so much. Regardless, it's definitely a standalone. It is one story. It's so cute. It's so good. I highly recommend it if you are a fan of Holly Black, or maybe if you've never read anything from her before. This was actually my first Holly Black book. Well, aside from Tide when I read it when I was in high school, but this was my first valid Holly Black book, and it was so good. I loved it so much. I just had such a good time with it, and I think it was so cute. So my next picks are ones, again, that I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about before. My next recommendation is Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schultz. So this is one of my favorite reads of the year. Book really sparked my love for standalone fantasies. Four Dead Queens follows this world, and it takes place in this country called Kadara. And Kadara is broken into 4 quadrants, and each of the 4 quadrants is ruled by a queen. Each queen, again, rules her own district, and each of the districts have different qualities. So we have an agricultural quadrant, we have a mercantile quadrant that kind of deals with shipping and all of that stuff. We have a technological quadrant, and we also have a cultural quadrant. So again, each of the 4 queens rules these quadrants, but they all rule them at the castle, which is kind of in the middle of the 4 quadrants. The only real experience they have with their quadrants are when they were younger, before they were taken to the castle to rule. We get the perspective of each of the 4 queens in this book, and we also get a 5th perspective, and our 5th perspective follows Kiralee, and she is a member of the mercantile quadrant, and she is kind of this thief kind of character, and she is on a mission to steal these memory chips. And these memory chips are kind of add a sci-fi element to the story, because they, when ingested, you see the memories of the person who the chips were taken from. And she ends up ingesting said chips and is caught up in this conspiracy to kill each of the 4 queens. So this is a murder mystery. It's a look into the politics of this world. It's like we got assassins, there's romance, there's all of these different aspects that just make this book such a fast-paced, such a interesting and unique story that just deals with so many things, but it still is such a satisfying ending. It's such a fun read. There is also a female-female romance in here, which I always forget to mention. This book is just absolutely so entertaining, so fun. I believe that Astrid is making prequels to this, maybe, or like novellas or something like that. She's been teasing it a little bit on Twitter, so I'm really hoping that's true and that's the case, because I would love to see her write more in this world. I really need more people to read this. I always boost this on Twitter and everything like that, but I just need more people to read this because it was so fun. It was such a good book, and it was so thrilling and fast-paced, and it just, loved it so much. If you are a fan of the Three Dark Crown series, or if you really didn't like it, or but you liked the concept of it, definitely check this out, because in my opinion, this has all the similar vibes of Three Dark Crowns, but it's done way better, and it's so good. The next one I have to talk about is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. You guys know I had to mention this in this video. This is a retelling of The Little Mermaid, but dark version. We follow our main character, Lyra, and she is the princess of the sea. She is the daughter of the Siren Queen, who rules over the entire ocean. In this world, sirens collect the hearts of humans, and these hearts kind of are the marker of their age, so they get a heart at every birthday, basically. So theoretically, depending on how many hearts you have, tells your age. Lyra goes hunting with her cousin for her birthday, but she ends up taking a heart for herself as well a couple weeks before her own birthday is met. And she goes to her mother, the queen, and she is not happy at all about this. She heavily considers it an abuse of her power, and she gets real mad. The queen in this is not a nice lady, let me just tell you that right now. She punishes Lyra by making her a human and tells her that if she can steal the heart of a prince while as a human, like without any of her powers, then she can come back and reclaim her position. This is so good. The banter in this is absolutely amazing. The relationship, this is an enemies to lovers, pirate, mermaid romance. I love everything about that. Alexandra Christo's writing is so good. Like, she packs a punch so well in her writing. You travel to many different countries in this world, and each of them have their own histories that you get to learn about. Each one of them has their own lore, and this is just another example of how well an author can put so much world building and so much character development in just one little book. And it's so fun, so entertaining. If you haven't read this book, please do. It's so fun. This would be a great winter read because although it takes place on the sea, the land that they're traveling to that kind of houses this legendary artifact is the coldest point on Earth. So I feel like it could potentially be quite a fun wintry read. I don't know, maybe I'll have to test that theory out to myself even though I've already reread this book this year. Why not again? Highly recommend this one. This was my favorite book of 2018, and I'm so excited to see what Alexandra Christo can do more next. And my last book for this list, you guys are definitely not going to be surprised when I hold it up, and that is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. You thought that when this book came out that I would stop talking about it. You are thoroughly incorrect. If you haven't heard about this book, I am very much surprised, and you definitely are new to my channel, but House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, and we follow our main character Annalie, who is the middle child of the sisters, and when we enter this book, 4 of the 12 sisters have died, and we enter the funeral of the 4th death, Eulalie, and she has died under mysterious circumstances, or so Annalie believes, and we are taken on this journey of Annalie trying to uncover the mystery of her sister's deaths. And meanwhile, as this mystery is kind of unfolding, we also follow the sisters as they discover this magical door that is taking them to these mysterious and magical balls where, you know, they dance the night away, like in the 12 Dancing Princesses. You see? 12 Dancing Princesses retelling? 12 Dancing Princesses? Ha ha! Bet you didn't see that coming. This is absolutely the epitome of what a perfect standalone fantasy entails. The world building in this is so rich. There is an own, what is it called? Not own voices mythology, but like own mythology, creative, what is that called? Anyways, regardless, Erin A. Craig creates her own mythology in this book, and it is just sprinkled throughout the book in such a beautiful way that isn't info dumpy at all. It builds this rich atmospheric read, and you know all about this land and this country and the religion. Descriptions in here are so lush, so stunning. This is super spooky. This is definitely a horror YA fantasy novel. If you haven't read this, please read this in the month of October. I cannot stress enough how perfect this is for a spooky read. This is so creepy, so scary. I was freaked out both times I read this. It's so amazing, such a good book, such a good plot. The characters definitely lack in this one. This is one where the plot definitely takes precedent over the characters, but I still loved following this book regardless. If I haven't convinced you to read this book yet, I don't really know what I'm gonna be able to say to convince you further. It's so good. Just read it, try it out. It's enough to just try it for the ride, let me just tell ya. And before I go, I do just want to give an honorary mention that does go inside with this list, but I already said that I was gonna do top 5 standalone fantasies, so for continuity's sake, I can't just do top 6, even though this definitely goes inside with this list, but I don't want to go back and retrace my steps and redo this intro because I forgot to include a book. An honorary mention that does go inside with this list, but I don't want to say top 6, is Graceling by Kristin Cashore. If you haven't heard about Graceling by now, I would be thoroughly surprised. This has been a popular YA novel for years. I read this when I was in high school, early high school, maybe even middle school. This is a story that follows Katsa, who is a Graceling, and Gracelings in this world are individuals who have a certain skill in a certain thing. Katsa's grace is killing. She is super good at it. She has super great accuracy and stamina, and she can kill a man with her bare hands. She can kill a man with a thimble. She can kill a man however she needs to, and she does. And because of her super valuable grace, she is employed by her uncle, who is the king, and he's not a great guy. He is definitely suspicious, to say the least, and she has decided that she isn't going to put up with his antics anymore, and she runs away. And along the way, she meets up with this guy named Poe, and Poe actually has a very similar grace to Katsa. He is skilled in combat, so killing, combat, kind of similar. Hey y'all, terrible quality Heather here. My camera decided to cut off before I could, finish talking about Graceling and close off this video and take a thumbnail. And I would just like to say that that was incredibly rude of my camera, and I would like a refund, please. Thank you. So I'm just going to finish my thoughts really quick about Graceling. Katsa and Poe, there's romance, there's drama. Probably my main thoughts about Graceling is just how it reads very much like a movie. I know that every book has a beginning, middle, and end, obviously, but it's very cinematic. I think this would make a great adaptation because of how well Kristin Cashore is able to craft a narrative and see it through to the very end. And so you get very clear stages and acts of the book, if you will. And it's just overall it has pretty much everything. It's got romance, it's got action, it's got plot, it's got an interesting world, interesting magic system. There are 2 other companion books to this, so that's always fun if you want to continue the world. And again, I just think this is a great YA veteran, and it's classic YA fantasy, but in the best way possible. So yeah, if you guys haven't read Graceling before, I definitely recommend. And that'll be it for this video. Thank you for sticking around even through, sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully it won't happen again, but knowing me and my inability to work with technology, it will. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye!